Week 5, San Francisco 49ers at the Carolina Panthers. A little short week for the Niners, but they are playing in the afternoon, which should help those body clocks as they travel to face the Panthers. And keys to victory today. What do the 49ers have to do to come out of Carolina with a W? Jimmie Ward, Jason Verrett back practicing. Will they play? What does that mean for the 49ers? All that and more coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker. Thanks for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Where do we start, Croc? I think we got to go with the news of we do have the injury report as well this week, which is quite large, and it is a short week, but Jimmie Ward and Jason Verrett, the practice windows have been opened, and they've been practicing at least on a limited basis this week before week 5. They could be activated now, but there is a 3-week window for those players to be activated, so it remains to be seen if they will be active this week or not. Obviously, the 49ers defense has been awesome without them, maybe the best in the league, and now you've got these reinforcements that are high-level players, high-level starters, and the Niners defense playing so good, it's almost a question of how quickly you want to plug those guys in, right?
Yeah, that's been the big time question. And I'm getting that on social media. You know, people look at me as the defensive back guy and they're like, hey, should the 49ers play Jimmie Ward? And I'm like, they're probably telling them, hey, man, take your time. Make sure that you're, 100%. They're doing everything to get them up to speed, of course. But I know when it comes to defensive backs, everybody looks at interception totals. And they did that a lot with Jaquiski Tartt. It's like, oh, they don't force takeaways. They did that with Jimmie Ward for most of his career. It doesn't get the takeaways, and I get it. I think there is a frustration there. The one thing I will say about both of those guys is they are actually like good football players. And even more so for Jimmie Ward than Tartt, who I think Tartt did his job well. But you knew you weren't going to get much more than that, right? Good starting safety, reliable win on the field, all that stuff was awesome. You would like to get a Hufanga who has a knack for making plays. And some people have this innate ability to find the ball. Hufanga, he's one of them. So you want him on the field. And I talked about Samuel Womack. He's one of those guys as well. But Jimmie Ward, the things that he does can't really be quantified by a takeover a turnover or an interception, fumble recovery, or whatever. The flexibility that he gives you as a defensive coordinator with the things he's able to do, whether it is play single high, too high, playing the box, man on a tight end, man on a receiver, the things that you ask him to do and how you can kind of disguise your coverages and really maybe bring in a third safety is hard to really quantify with a specific number. So I think he still is very important to the defense. And regardless of how well the two safeties are playing right now, you should figure out a way to, one, get him on the field, and really not so much get him on the field because he's going to be on the field. Get the other guys on the field around him, but definitely need Talanoa Hufanga and Jimmie Ward. I think they'll be a really nice tandem.
And when it comes to Jason Verrett, just the injury history he has, and it's been over a year since he's even been on the field. I think that one you slow play a little more, and even when he is ready, I don't think you want to give him a full load of snaps anyway. And with the way that Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley are playing, those guys are the starters to me, and Verrett would be the third corner. Do you agree there that you would have like him on a pitch count, basically use him as needed once he's ready to go, rather than just throw him into the starting lineup?
Yeah, well, I did get kind of a little text message about something with insurance for Jason Verrett. And I think right now with the way that the defensive backs are playing, and remember when I believe it was Mooney went out for a play against the Denver Broncos, well, Samuel Womack went in on the outside, played outside cornerback. So I think if they like Womack, if they really like Diamador Lenore, who has shown he could play on the outside as well, maybe there's not a 100% need to play Jason Verrett. So that's something to really keep an eye on. And I think that was part of the issue, I don't want to say issue, but the thing last year where you go into the season, you got Verrett, you got Mosley. It's like, all right, we got these two young cornerbacks, and it's like, oh, man, they're not ready. So you had to bring in a guy like Josh Norman and Dre Kirkpatrick to play over those guys. But I think right now they're in a much better spot.
Absolutely. So when it comes to Jimmie Ward, there's 2 questions I have. One is, do you let Ward come in and almost play some nickel and keep Tashaun Gipson out there in center field? Because Gipson and Hufanga have been playing so well together. And when you look at the 49ers safeties and you've seen how good Tart played with the 49ers, you just mentioned it, and how good Ward has been. And then right now, I think Tart's still on the street, right? Has he signed with anybody? And then Tashaun Gipson was signed so late in the process, like week 3 of the preseason. And those guys are and he's playing at a high level with the 49ers. Is there something the 49ers are doing that just allows safeties to be awesome all the time? Because when's the last time they had like bad safety play?
Well, I think probably just using guys to their strengths and not asking them to do too much. I think part of it is having a terrific defensive coordinator who they have in D'Amico Ryans, right? Like, I think some guys that just played the game and really understand the front end and back end as linebackers do, they understand, all right, I'm going to put this guy, this is his skill set. I'm not going to put him in this position to where he's going to be vulnerable. So I think using guys like Gipson and Talanoa Hufanga to their strengths makes it easier to maybe hide some of the areas where they probably are lacking a little bit. Don't make them do those things.
And obviously having a really good front seven helps take a little bit of pressure off your safeties.
Jalen Ramsey said that.
Oh, did he?
He said that about he talked about the 49ers defense and saying that their pass rush is really good, and so your corners, they don't really have to cover as long. So he kind of alluding to the fact that maybe they are good, but it definitely helps to have that type of pass rush who got, 7 sacks on Matthew Stafford.
Sounds like jealousy from
It might be a little jealous, huh?
Yeah.
Might be. He was very – he does this interview on Uninterrupted immediately after the game. Like, it looks like he has a driver or something like that, so he's just kind of talking in his – it looks like a super Sprinter van or something, probably Mercedes-Benz one, and he's doing his interview, and he was very open about his feelings of hatred towards the 49ers and kind of the rivalry and what it's become, and just his – he said, hey, man, I promised y'all, like, I would come on here right after games, so I'm going to, do that, but I don't want to be on here right now. But he still gave, like, a really good interview, or I mean, I say interview. Nobody's asking him questions. He's just talking about the game and things that are on his mind. But it was good. It was really good, actually.
I love that the 49ers-Rams rivalry right now is growing and growing. It's important. And the Seahawks rivalry, I feel like, is going to fall off, too. So it's important to have that big-time rivalry. And just the San Francisco-LA thing, it's awesome. I love
it. He talked about the offense a little bit, too. And kind of, I don't want to say threw a shot, but he kind of is just the way he looked at the game. We'll get to that another. We'll circle back around once we start talking about the offense.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we got our keys to victory and some of those things. Last note here with Jimmie Ward. If Jimmie Ward comes back, Croc, do you think it might even put more pressure on Hufanga because the 49ers will do more rotating, bringing Ward down in man coverage, leaving Hufanga in center field by himself a little bit more? We haven't seen as much of that this year. In fact, the only time I can really remember, I'm sure it's happened more than this, I haven't charted it or anything like that, but the touchdown against the Bears in week 1, he was playing like a center field, but it was a red zone, so it was condensed a little bit. And he, couldn't decide between the 2 wide open receivers he wanted to cover and ended up not covering either one of them. But that was the one thing I was worried about with Hufanga when they do that interchanging and seeing him in the deep middle of the field, because underneath he's awesome. He's gotten even better and looks even quicker than last year. And obviously he's so prepared and he's so smart, and he's just reacting faster than everybody else on the field, it seems like. But in center field, when you just really need the pure range, if you're playing, cover 3 or cover 1, and you are the middle of the field safety, you have to get to the sideline, maybe he'll show more of his warts there in coverage. And I wonder if that'll happen more often now with Jimmie Ward back out there at free safety.
I think he's been solid, even as a single high guy. Again, he got caught in the bind in that Bears game where they had busted coverages all over the place, and they kind of put him out there, and it's like, well, what do I do? It was a lose-lose situation for him. But aside from that, you probably don't notice when he's single high because nothing really happens. And I remember I pointed it out during preseason where he had really good eyes, got a read and a jump on the ball playing from single high, and he did a terrific job there. I think for the most part, you just look and say, hey, this is a guy that's prepared. This is a guy that understands tips and keys of what he's looking at. So no matter where they line him up, he should have some level of success. I think we can start to kind of give him that type of credit with the type of football player that he is. And obviously, you want to see it throughout an entire season, right? We've got a small sample size, 4 games. But overall right now, he hasn't done anything to where I'm necessarily worried. But as far as like kind of the usage between those guys and putting him back and Ward, and someone else has asked this as well about where kind of Ward's strengths are. I think maybe there's a scenario where they just run more, kind of more like dime. And people might think it's more, 3 safeties. But I think it's just more defensive backs on the field that just make your defense a little bit more multiple with what you're able to do. And I think that's the exciting part that DeMeco Ryans has to look forward to.
Especially if, Al-Shaair is going to miss more time or anything like that, and you're only down to your 2, starting linebackers, it would be smart to maybe use an extra safety more often, potentially in that case. But you're right. Like, if anything, Talanoa Hufanga has gone the other way and, crushed any worries that we've had with him at all, really, this year in any facet of his game. He's been that good. One more quick note, and Jimmie Ward even recognizing that maybe the 49ers don't need him back, don't need him rushing back. He said, quote, "I'm very eager about getting back into the action and returning to the team." He said, but, quote, "I don't think the defense needs me right now. What are we, number 1, number 2? They don't need me. They can keep me clean for right now until they need me." So Jimmie Ward's even like, yeah, I guess I don't have to push this. And so maybe we won't see Jimmie Ward this week. Maybe it'll be at the later end of his window.
He'll be in there.
Yeah.
I get it, though. I get he's saying the things that you would love for kind of player. I mean, you want them to be out there, of course, but he's just being a team player there. Jimmie Ward is the ultimate competitor. If there's anything I can take away from what I've learned about him throughout these 8 years, I feel like he's been playing now 7, 8 years. He's a big time competitor. So he wants to be out there. He's just saying the right things.
All right. More on the 49ers injury report, who might not be out there for the 49ers against the Carolina Panthers in week 5, and our keys to victory for week 5 coming up. All right, here's the sports analogy for you when it comes to burglars. Your home is like the end zone, and you need the absolute strongest defense you can muster. So what is basically the 49ers version of home security? Well, SimpliSafe. This is why I use SimpliSafe. Trust SimpliSafe home security. At SimpliSafe, your safety is the only thing that matters. It's the cutting technology. It's cutting edge technology, powered 24/7, professional monitoring agents who will always have your back, so you can always know your home is safe. And I love how you can control the system from your phone with the app. Like, that's the key to any security system now for me. We have the technology, you're wired up, and you can see it from anywhere. You can see it while you're in your home, what's going on outside. You can see it when you're not at home, and it really gives you that peace of mind with crystal clear HD live stream on your security cameras, or the wide array of high-tech sensors that you can have on your home, on any windows, any doors, and of course that 24/7 professional monitoring. SimpliSafe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home or can't be reached. So customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/lockedonnfl. Save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplisafe.com/lockedonnfl to learn more. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. Make sure you check out NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. Locked On's local experts give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, including Sunday and Monday Night Football, plus betting advice from the field's leading experts, BetOnline. Follow NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Taking a peek at the rest of the injury report for the 49ers, we'll see if Verrett and Ward get in there Sunday. Limited at practice, Ross Dwelley and Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings, a new name on the 49ers injury report this year. He's been limited at practice both Wednesday and Thursday. We'll see if he's able to practice Friday and go with an ankle injury. But on the flip side, maybe this is the opportunity for Danny Gray, who had been inactive last week with a hip injury. He's now been a full participant in practice this week, so he looks like he's good to go, and this could be the opportunity he needs to jump in there, be the number 3, number 4 guy, and potentially do some damage on the outside, maybe with some deep balls against those Carolina Panthers. So that could be exciting, Croc.
I'm excited to see what type of role they have for him. What are the plans for Danny Gray? What are your plans to utilize his speed? And there's something that my guy Greg Pinelli pointed out about Jimmy Garoppolo. Right before the half, he threw 2 passes, right? One sailed out of bounds, and people were like, why did he throw it out of bounds? It looked like the DB wasn't playing or whatever. I think the DB saw the trajectory of the ball and like, hey, this ball is going out of bounds. I don't need to run after it. So nothing to worry about there. But the throw to Ray McCloud down the left sideline, he threw off his back leg and just launched really kind of a beautiful ball down the field. And it showed he has the necessary arm strength to push the ball down the field. I think it's just him seeing it and being aggressive with it. And that's what you would like to see him get more out of. But he can do it. So you throw in a guy like Danny Gray, and I guess if he can see kind of a window of opportunity to throw the ball down the field to Danny Gray, I think he can take advantage of it. Now, again, Trey Lance, his eyes work deep to shallow. So he's going to see it probably before Jimmie. But I think they can do something to make a point to throw the ball down the field to Danny Gray. You got it. What is the role for him?
Yeah, and it's almost like it's important for Danny Gray to have this opportunity where they have no choice but to use him, right? If somebody else is hurt, he has to be in there. You're the fourth guy. So, at worst, and maybe you're the number 3 guy, right? If you're in there. So you have to use him. So he has to do run a certain amount of plays. And so that's when you get excited about it. Because if he's just active and they have him on the roster, but everybody else is healthy too, do they even need to use him? Maybe they throw him on the field once or twice. But if he has to play 20 snaps, then you actually might get a chance to see what their plan is with him and give him an opportunity to impact the game. And also with Jimmie G, I think on some of his deep balls, he doesn't maybe get his feet set, or he does have his feet set, but doesn't use a lot of his lower body in his throws. And the way he snaps off his throws, it's not great for throwing the deep balls. And, trajectory and touch is big, but also the 49ers haven't had great deep ball receivers, because that's the other half of it, is guys who are really good at tracking the ball, going up and coming down with the ball in one-on-one situations. So we'll see if Danny Gray can become that sort of a difference maker in those deep ball situations, or at least run off some coverage and keep defenses honest for the underneath stuff that we know the 49ers are going to feature. Or
if you just probably need to go all in on whatever Ray McCloud's player props are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's another wrinkle to it. And the other thing is, you have to, like, if you just throw one deep ball a game, they're called 50-50 balls for a reason, right? And maybe you don't get it, and that's it. You gotta throw a few, right? You gotta
throw a few.
You gotta give
your team. Now some players are more, 80-20. Des Bryant, you just put it in the area, he's gonna come down with it.
That's true.
But
Andre Hopkins, yeah. Those players not practicing. Nick Bosa had just a rest day on Wednesday. Nothing to worry about there. He was back at full practice on Thursday. Kyle Shanahan did say they weren't really going full speed at practice this week on the short week. So a lot of guys kind of getting some rest and a lot of walkthrough-y type stuff, it sounds like. Trent Williams, Tarvarius Moore, Colton McKivitz, Tyler Kroft, Javon Kinlaw, Ty Davis-Price, and Eric Armstead all not practicing this week, and are probably all very unlikely to play. So we might see Colton McKivitz and Trent Williams out, the 1 and the 2 left tackle. I think that leads into our first key to victory, right, Croc, which is the offensive line.
Got to be able to pass protect. And we looked at a stat or graphic that showed the 49ers pass protection is grading out well, but as you worded it, kind of they're winning, they're losing pretty.
Yeah, I think it's losing pretty is the way the graph looked to me, because on one, the x-axis was like ESPN's pass rush win rate or pass protection win rate, and then the other axis was PFF grades, and they were above the mean on the PFF grades. They were doing pretty well. Oh, here we go. You can pull it up, and so they're better than average on the PFF grade side of things on the bottom of the graph, and then on the left side of the graph going upwards, they're below average according to ESPN's pass protection win rate statistic, which to me says they're losing pretty, which is kind of odd, right? So to me, I kind of, and you see where they're at on that graph, I feel like they've been pretty below average pass protection, like just from my eyes. And PFF grading would make you think they're maybe a little bit better than that. But, maybe getting beat too much, but that we knew this line was going to be a work in progress, and it's tough to lose your best player out there on that line, because all 4 of the other spots were already questions, and now you got all 5 spots that are questions. Although some of the guys have been better than I was worried they would be, and I think Aaron Banks is one of those guys.
Oh yeah, and we've been tagged a few times. I know you're not on Twitter right now, but people are like, "Hey, y'all need to give Aaron Banks his flowers," and we haven't talked about him a whole lot, and I think that's a good thing, right? If you're not talking about Aaron Banks, he's doing a really good job, and I guess now is the time to talk about him, maybe give him a game ball if he continues, and talk about how he's progressed as a prospect and what we originally saw. And I think that's what the 49ers saw. That's why he didn't play his rookie year. But what he's kind of transformed into now is really kind of a left guard that we don't worry about, right? Like we didn't come in here after the game and be like, man, sure do miss Laken Tomlinson, right? Like that never came out of our mouth. So that's a really good thing, a positive for the 49ers, what they're getting from Aaron Banks right now.
And even if Aaron Banks doesn't turn into an all-pro or anything, and maybe he's not amazing at the outside zone, getting out on the second level and making super athletic blocks, if he's just a very good wall-off blocker and can do what he needs to do and make it difficult for guys to get around him, like, that's okay. He's a guard. You don't need him to be a superstar out there. Just don't get beat a lot. And so he's been holding up over there better than I expected, left guard, which is a good sign for the 49ers.
Doing well. He's doing very well.
And we'll see Brunskill. He wasn't on the injury report, so we'll see if he gets back in there and ends up playing for Spencer Burford, because that was interesting with Burford, how he got replaced very quickly by Brunskill, and then Brunskill got banged up again and left the game. And of course, the biggest factor on the offensive line is Jalen Moore now, because he's the last guy left at left tackle, and maybe after that it's probably Brunskill. Maybe you start Brunskill left tackle. I don't know.
I'm surprised that's not something they've gone to, because there was a time where Joe Staley, there were reports he might retire, he might come back. What's he going to do? And I'm like, well, if he retires, you got Daniel Brunskill. Like, that was my answer for losing Joe Staley, because Brunskill played very well at left tackle. So, or right tackle, however they kind of flipped that whole thing. But
both.
Yeah, play both. So not, anything that would be too crazy. I know we've seen him at guard the last year, but put him over there at left tackle. I mean, once you're down to your third tackle on that side, I mean, that's probably not pretty. He might be the best you have right now. Maybe could potentially be the second best option just in general.
That is definitely key number one, especially with Brian Burns, who's one of the better pass rushers, edge guys in the NFL, whether he's rushing from the left side or the right side. Jalen Moore and Mike McGlinchey getting him protected, letting Jimmy Garoppolo operate that offense, and, of course, getting that 49ers running game going against the Carolina Panthers. All right, more keys to victory coming up for the 49ers against the Panthers in Week 5. And if you want to get in on the action, you want to bet on those San Francisco 49ers this week, you can find those odds at betonline.net, your number one source for football betting and information this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, in-depth articles, and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information, with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there, not just football. And there's tons of things to bet on football-wise, and it's interesting how some lines and season-long bets have moved. And, what's funny is the three top bets for coaches, the three most likely coaches, according to BetOnline, to be fired this season are all on the 49ers schedule. They already played one and lost. Nathaniel Hackett's up there, but this week's opponent, Matt Rule, is by far the most likely, according to the odds, to be fired. And then after that, third is Cliff Kingsbury, who the 49ers still get to play twice. So that's a good sign for the 49ers schedule. Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, golf, you name it, even Vegas casino games at BetOnline. Head over to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I want to throw this graphic up there on the screen, Croc. We're going graphic crazy today. Just to kind of paint the picture of what this game might look like. And this one is defensive. This is after 4 weeks of the NFL season. Defensive EPA per play. EPA is expected points added per play. And on the other side is offensive EPA per play. So the 49ers below average offense and one of the best, if not actually the best, according to EPA, as you can see here, in the entire NFL. So they are at the top, which means they're a great defense, and a little bit left of center, which means they haven't played great offense. And then you go look at where the Carolina Panthers are on this, and they're way over to the left. So they are the worst offense in the NFL going against the best defense in the NFL. And defensively, they've been okay, which tells you if you're in the top left quadrant, that means bad offense, good defense for both teams, which tells me it's going to be a really low scoring game.
That's what the 49ers kind of have been more of. And I talked about Jalen Ramsey, and he alluded to something pertaining to the 49ers offense. And I don't think he meant it in the sense of, oh man, well, if those two plays never happen, they don't win the game. But he was saying, like, look, they had an explosive run play. They had an explosive pass game play with Deebo Samuel. And That's how they beat us. It wasn't like they were just methodically able to march down the field continuously. It's not like the 49ers put up 35 points or something like that. It's like, man, there were 2 plays offensively that they got pretty much all game, and that's what cost us this ball game. So I do think that there's a scenario where the 49ers have to improve offensively, and I think some people would think that we're being kind of hard on them, and this kind of goes back to last year when the 49ers started off 2-0. And Peacock and I were like, something's not quite right. There's something a little weird going on with this offense right now. And people were like, oh, no, you guys are overreacting. Just be happy about a win. I'm like, man, there's just something off. And the next thing you know, they lose like, I think they lost 4 straight games.
They lost 5 out of 6 because they ended up being 3-5 at one point. And they started 2-0. Yeah.
Right. So this isn't us, dogging them for anything they've done so far. I mean, the 49ers are 2-2. They're sitting at top right now of the NFC West. That is awesome. You are in an ideal spot, especially being 2-0 in the NFC West. I think that is huge. So they've done a good job accomplishing that. But if the goal is Super Bowl, I think the 49ers definitely have to start to find that groove, that rhythm offensively. And hopefully this is the game for that, right? You're playing against the Carolina Panthers. They do have a defense that can be solid, but their offense, I think, can end up being extremely stagnant in this game. And if that's what you get out of their offense, then you have to take advantage of it. And I hope that this is a game where the 49ers, like kind of what we saw a little bit in the Seattle game, can just get it going a little bit more. Move the ball, get points, score touchdowns. It doesn't have to be that 51 points the 49ers dropped on them in 2019. But again, if you can just have 35 points, I think, heading into the Atlanta game, you start to feel, okay, we're in a groove. Number 1 defense, offense moving, everything clicking. Then you start feeling like that kind of see those Super Bowl odds start getting a little bit better each week.
Knowing that it could be that sort of a game, though, do you think that will put Kyle Shanahan in more of a conservative shell for this game? Because I know you were talking about the stat earlier. Do you have it to bring up on the screen about the 4th down stuff? Because we've kind of crushed Kyle a little bit being too conservative in the 4th down. He talked about how he doesn't even listen to his guy who gives him the stats during the game and the analytics on when to go for it, when to not. Yeah, here it is. So out of all the teams, right, Croc? Is that what this graph is saying? Out of all the teams in the NFL, which teams go for it when they should?
When they should. And I mean, I guess if according to the analytics, which some people might say analytics is ruining sports, right? But according to the analytics, when the 49ers should go for it on 4th down, whatever that means, 49ers are dead last.
That's pretty amazing.
Right. Now, I think the counter that some people might have with the pushback on that is, well, the 49ers have number 1 defense. So maybe you don't have to go for it on 4th down if you have the number 1 defense. And you know me, it's like, yeah, it doesn't hurt you until it does. Not being a little bit more aggressive in games. And to me, everything is just about a mindset, man. I mean, at least that's how I think about it. It's a mindset that you have to have, whether it's in anything that you do in life, right? If you play it safe, you'll get safe results. If you swing for the fences, you'll probably hit a few more home runs. And I think it pays off a little bit more to take some risk. And I see right now Kyle Shanahan playing it very conservative, and you win games. He's won a lot of games, but man, he's chasing that Super Bowl, and a lot of 49er fans are chasing that Super Bowl right behind him.
Yeah, it's a confidence thing. It's also just a sort of an aesthetic thing when you're a fan watching a game. When you get the ball and there's less than 2 minutes and you get the ball on offense, you want them to go for it and go down and try to score, right? When you can hammer a team and end a game and it's 4th and 1, 4th and a long one, even a 4th and 2, whatever it is, and the numbers say you're better off going for it, you want to be able to have that confidence and get your team pumped and go just bully the other team and go win it. And it's more fun to watch that brand of football. But Kyle is clearly an old soul as it comes to football coaching. I mean, he's one of the just having a fullback, let alone the highest paid fullback in the NFL. A lot of teams don't have a fullback, period. He's very old school in the way he goes about his team. Running game, defense, slow paced, conservative. That's Kyle Shanahan.
I talked about it, maybe potentially just being the defense is so good. We're going to lean on the defense to win us football games, and that could be it. But you talked about confidence. Do you think there is a lack of confidence that he has in the offense?
That's a big question. That's hard to answer. What's like in Kyle Shanahan's heart? I would love to be able to inject him with truth serum and hear what he has to say about that honestly. But the way he coaches really seems like he trusts his defense a lot more than his offense, as he probably should. But again, he's an offensive guy. So you got to be able to feel like, man, we're a good offense. We have these plays in our back pocket that we know are going to work. We can go beat you on 4th and 1. But he doesn't really do that.
And you have weapons. I mean, I could see if he was out there, it's the first year, and you still got Pierre Garcon and Aldrick Robinson or something, and Kendrick Bourne as like your best receiver. But it's like, man, you got Kittle, you got Debo, you got Ayu, you got Juszczyk. I mean, you got some guys. And he's like, no.
You know what? Actually, and I've seen some people bring it up this week about Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, by the way, the 49ers can't trade for him before the deadline because he can't be moved. His contract's insane. I think the first time maybe it's better in trade than if he was cut. I know for sure he can't even be cut at all until post June 1st in the upcoming off season. And it still would be a huge cap hit for the Panthers. But I think maybe after this week, we should probably have an episode where we talk about maybe some potential additions the 49ers can make. We saw how important it was when Emmanuel Sanders showed up in that Super Bowl run in 2019. And remember when Jimmie Garoppolo, like he had a week of practice, and Jimmie Garoppolo threw a ball like 2 steps before he broke, and he broke out. I was like, what the heck? That's what it looks like to have a veteran quarterback throw into a veteran wide receiver. Like, I wonder if the 49ers need something like that, or another spark on offense, whether it's an offensive lineman, a running back, a receiver, whatever it is. I think this is a season the 49ers could potentially add somebody at the trade deadline.
Maybe a running back, because he doesn't trust the guys. I mean, you signed Tevin Coleman, you signed Marlon Mack. You have 4 running backs on the roster, not including Kyle Juszczyk, suiting up in the game Monday night. And it was like, none of you guys are touching the ball except for Jeff Wilson. And Jordan Mason, I think, got 1 carry, maybe.
I want to double check here on Christian McCaffrey's contract just to see when he can be traded, because sometimes those bonuses and contracts go with you if you're traded versus if you're cut. So let's see if he was to be traded. He can't be traded. Christian McCaffrey might be a future 49er, and I think once he does get cut and becomes a free agent, I would not be shocked at all if Kyle Shanahan went out and signed Christian McCaffrey. But yeah, it would be $17 million in dead money, I believe, right now. If he was, it would be a $17 million total cap hit and $25 million in dead money if he was traded or cut. Yeah,
it's like quarterback money.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Don't give running backs big second contracts, folks. All right. Any other keys to victory here, Croc, before we go?
Don't beat yourself. And that's what we saw. A lot of, the first 2 losses, you had some undisciplined plays against the Chicago Bears, a team that you have no business losing to, especially as we know now. Somehow they have 2 wins, but it's not like they're not good, So shouldn't lose that game. Definitely some self-inflicted wounds against the Denver Broncos. So, play more disciplined brand of football. And the 49ers do that, they can beat anybody. And they definitely can beat the hell out the Carolina Panthers if they just don't hurt themselves.
So, and the Niners are favored by 6.5, 7 points, favored by a touchdown, essentially. On the road, though, home dog is usually a good bet. Do you think this game just being low scoring, that the Panthers can keep this close enough to where you would bet on the Panthers and just take those points with the home underdog because it's a low scoring game where the Niners win by 3 or 4 points rather than by, more than a touchdown? Or are you looking for a 49ers blowout in this game?
Well, Baker Mayfield has literally been the worst quarterback in the NFL. In all of the NFL, Baker Mayfield dead last. So I think just based off of what he's been and then what he's going up against with the 49ers defense, I would assume that this would be a 2-score victory for the 49ers.
As long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot, right?
As long as you don't shoot themselves in the foot. And what the 49ers did last week, they did not shoot themselves in the foot. Jimmie Garoppolo did not turn the ball over or throw that interception that we kind of, oh man, he might do this one weird play a game, because that could have been the difference, right? I mean, late in the game, fourth quarter, 49ers up 5 points. If he does his little weird play, we're talking about a totally different ball game. Now, he didn't do it, and you handle business against a team that's better than the Carolina Panthers. So, Jimmie doesn't do anything weird. You should beat this team handily.
Nick Bosa waves the flag at least twice in this game. 49ers win by 2 scores. You heard it there from
Beat their
Eric
ass.
Crocker. Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen. And, of course, post-game, Croc and I will be live to break it all down right here, Locked On 49ers.